Okay, we are back with Journey to the Eastern Hemisphere, and we are reading Chinese culture through music today. Because Chinese civilization is one of the oldest on Earth and was isolated from the Western world for hundreds of years, it has a rich, unique culture. Traditional Chinese artisans were highly valued for their ability to blend the beauty of nature with functional designs. The various dynasties in China's history each made their own contributions to art, music, and literature. By the 1800s, European and American influences began to show up in Chinese culture, from food to fashion to theater. After a few hundred years of cultural diffusion, the Communist Party took control in 1949. They placed strict limits on Chinese artists, requiring their work to express communist values and ideals. During the Cultural Revolution, the artists were stifled and millions of people were imprisoned or killed. Many of them artists and intellectuals. In the 1970s, a change in leadership loosened the reins on artists once again. Now they have more freedom to express themselves and experiment with different styles. So we'll read about pottery. China's vast resources of clay make pottery one of its most well-known and oldest art forms. For hundreds of years, the Chinese have used clay to make porcelain or china objects like vases and teapots. The Chinese have been using the potter's wheel for over 5,000 years to create pottery. They also developed intricate methods of decorating pottery, including using glazes as far back as the 1300 BCE. Chinese pottery is often decorated with beautiful landscapes, flowers, and calligraphy. Many pieces feature dragons, a symbol of wisdom and goodness. In the 100 CE, the Chinese invented porcelain, a type of delicate china made from very fine clay. During the Ming Dynasty, a blue and white pattern of decorated porcelain became popular. Upper-class people used pottery to decorate their homes and display their wealth. Sculptures. And so this is, I think, what we're going to read about right here. This is each life-size terracotta warrior has unique facial features. So sculpture. China's earliest sculptures were often life-size figures made from clay. Sculptures of people, horses, and even chariots often stood guard around tombs. The most famous of these is the terracotta army of China's first emperor. Over 7,500 figures were found guarding his tomb when farmers accidentally discovered them while digging a well in 1974. As Buddhism spread across China, sculptors turned their attention to decorating shrines with figures of Buddha. They also branched out from clay and stone to begin working with jade, bronze, and other metals. The Chinese were the first to make cast iron by heating iron ore in furnaces and pouring it into molds. However, this metal was used more for tools and weapons than for art. And now we're going to move to paper making, printing, and writing. The Chinese are credited with being the first to invent paper. This invention came about sometime during the Han Dynasty, about 200 BCE. The earliest forms of paper used rags, but soon plant material became more popular. Bamboo and other plants would be soaked and turned into pulp. Then screens were dipped into pulp and set out to dry. Government factories mass-produced the paper for civil service workers to use. Printing was done using wooden blocks and carved symbols. At first, these printing blocks would contain a simple seal that could be stamped onto official documents or personal letters. Later, they were used to print entire pages of books. Carving a wood block for each page of a book was a slow and difficult process, but it caused a rise in literacy across the country. Chinese writing is an art form all its own. The Chinese language doesn't use an alphabet because the writing is based on symbols or characters instead of sounds. Each word has its own character, which means there are over 40,000 in all. The characters are written and read from the top of the page to the bottom in columns moving right to left. A particularly beautiful style of writing invented in China is calligraphy. It is traditionally done with a brush and ink. This ancient art form has been around for thousands of years and is highly respected skill. And this is right here, the Forest of Stone Stele Museum, and it's home to over 3,000 inscribed stone slabs and is called the Cradle of Calligraphy. We'll move over to painting. This picture here is a mural at the Summer Palace in Beijing. So long before the invention of paper, Chinese artists painted on silk as early as 4000 BCE. They used the same type of brush used by calligraphers, hair animals held by a bamboo handle. Artists mainly used black pine soot and glue to make their own ink, but also created colors from plants and minerals. Early on, artists painted a variety of subjects, but by the 900 CE, landscapes became the most common subject for paintings. And now we'll move into literature. China has a rich history of writing dating back to 1500 BCE. Scribes carved symbols into bones or turtle shells to record duties of the royal families. With the invention of paper and the growth of Confucianism, Buddhism, and Taoism, Chinese writing became more beautiful and philosophical. Poetry is an especially valued form of writing that has appeared in paintings, dramas, and novels. Early forms of prose were often religious or philosophical texts, such as the Confucian writings, 5 classics, and the Taoist texts, the Book of the Way and its Virtue, and the Zhangzi. Sorry for that pronunciation. During the 1200s, fiction and drama became more popular. By 1949, however, Chinese communists under Mao Zedong restricted all art forms, especially literature. Written works had to represent the working class and had to be accessible to people of all academic abilities. Any criticism of the government was strictly prohibited. Beginning in the 1990s, authors started to have more freedom, but are still forbidden from criticizing government policy. And we're going to read theater. Chinese theater combines spoken words, poetry, singing, dialogue, dancing, mime, and acrobatics. Traditional forms date back to the Yuan dynasty of the 1200s, while modern theater has been influenced by Europe and the United States since the late 1800s, often incorporating dialogue, singing, and dancing, a trend that continued through the early 1900s. And we'll finish with music. Like many other cultures, the Chinese have long used music for ceremonial as well as recreational purposes. They play music at weddings, funerals, and parties. Confucius wrote that the music is the harmony of heaven and earth. Musicians in China use a 5-note scale rather than an 8-note scale used in the West. Although Chinese musicians today play a variety of instruments and musical styles, traditional music is used a 7-stringed quint, a bamboo mouth organ called a sheng, and various types of flutes. And we will pick up tomorrow with fashion.